Hello and welcome to this video on writing a job description and person specification. My name is the Anonymous Advisor and I'm here to guide you through the process of recruiting staff safely and successfully. This video will provide tips, tricks and effective ways that you can ensure that the job description and person specification that you produce is correct, accurate and adequately reflecting the role that you're employing. The audience of this video is designed for those who are new to recruiting staff or to those who may not have encountered the process of writing a job description or person specification before. Equally, this video can support those who have encountered the job description and person specification process before, however, want some tips and tricks about what could go in and what should be avoided. People need to be increasingly aware of the risk of discrimination, particularly in a person specification, so I'll provide guidance on this too. This video is also supported by other guides that I've provided from both employee and employer perspectives. These range from effective job searching, writing a successful CV, or how to write an effective job advert which will attract the right candidates. The first thing to understand that job description as an overall term refers to two sections, the job description and then the person specification. All applicants for a job should be given a job description so that they're clear about the demands of the job. Given sufficient information, applicants can decide for themselves whether or not to apply for the job on offer. This can save time in receiving applications from people who would not want the job if they knew more about it. The job description part highlights the key duties and responsibilities of the post holder and describes the role itself. It's normally a broad overview of the key parts that an employee expects to do in the role if they were successful. Normally, the job description should include the job title, the duties of the role, the scope and context of the role in terms of how it's involved within the organisation. Conversely, it's important to understand what a job description is not so that you don't get the two confused. One of the main mistakes that employers often make with job descriptions is to list every single duty that an employee would be expected to do in the role. This makes the job description too wordy and you're limiting yourself to be able to add responsibilities to the role at a later stage. Another factor is to make sure that you avoid is to have the job description that is inflexible and set in stone. Job descriptions should always be subject to periodic review, most commonly at appraisal times, so don't create a document that can't ever be changed and be willing to do so. The key aspect to remember with job descriptions is that when you come to writing one, ensure there's not one in existence already. If there is, go from there rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and write another one. It's far more effective to have less job descriptions that are standardised and consistent than to have hundreds that all differ but relate to very similar roles. When looking at what specifically goes into a job description, my best suggestion is that you split it into the three different sections: the initial information page, the context, and then the main duties and responsibilities. A good tip is to also remember that a job description shouldn't be more than 2 pages long, and otherwise you run the risk of it becoming too wordy and detailed. You don't need to stick to this verbatim, however try and use it as a guide. When writing or updating a job description, it is important to remember that it should contain duties that are appropriate to the grade of the post. Amending a job description may have implications for the grade and salary, so it's also important to understand if there is a job evaluation process in place. Speak to your local HR if you need further advice on this. Under the initial information section, you should ensure that there's information about what the job title is, the salary for the post, the location of the role, what post they report to, and some of the key responsibilities of the role. This may include line management or financial responsibility. You may want to consider putting this as a table or a separate section at the beginning of the JD so that it stands out. The second section, the context or scope of the role, encourages you to provide information about what the role sits in, such as what the organisation does, the department and the service. This enables the applicant to understand what the role is and how it contributes to the overall function of the organisation. The scope of the role might be a very quick summary of the role itself and what the post holder will do. Again, do this as a separate section and try not to make it too long, however it should provide an excellent summary of the role. The final section of the job description is the main duties and responsibilities section, and this would be where you provide a short summary of what the role will be doing, how they will work, and who they will work with. I would suggest doing this as short sentences which is separated by bullet points so it's punchier and more succinct. Also consider using action verbs such as managing, guiding, leading, influencing, or communicating to describe the role. Also ensure the information is up to date and accurate in this section. There are some aspects that are really important that you consider in your job description. The first is that there's nothing that could be seen as discriminatory, such as if the title and wording implied that you had a preference for a male or female candidate. If you watch one of my other videos on producing a job advert, you will understand about the term positive action, which may mean there are instances where you can imply a preference, but only for when it's a justifiable reason. When looking at the duties of the role, try and ensure that they're written in the present tense, starting with an action verb. Also, try and make sure you're not including any jargon or acronyms that the individual may not understand. Try not to overstate the role, such as overemphasizing the responsibilities or duties of the post, but be realistic about what the post is and what it will do. The job description ideally would refer to the outcomes that you want the successful applicant to do, such as what successes and achievements they would get. If they are there, are they explained in quantitative or qualitative information? Finally, in terms of the job description length, consider whether it's over or under the 2 pages. If it is over and you're trying to cut it down, consider whether or not the information is concise enough. Also, are you duplicating information that you've referred to already? The second section of a job description is the person specification. A well-written person specification is essential to all recruitment as it should accurately reflect the individual best suited to do the work. It's also used when shortlisting candidates to view the evidence which the applicant has given to enable selectors to seek evidence about the applicant as a basis for an objective and unbiased decision. The person specification should adequately show what skills, experience, and qualifications an applicant needs to demonstrate that they have for the role. I would suggest that you detail this in separate headings so that you can see the different requirements for each topic that are easily defined. Again, in the person specification can be marked as essential or desirable. This is dependent upon if you have different requirements of the role or if you've signed up to aspects such as the 2-tick scheme, where you must provide different requirements. Think carefully about which criteria you put under these headings. Whilst it may seem limiting to put some criteria as essential, it's also a tool in assisting the shortlisting process so that you're looking at all the key information. A person specification must not be a list of unrealistic demands. Make sure that the skills, experience, and qualifications of the role are related to the job itself and are not a list of aspects which are completely irrelevant to the role. Also, try and make sure there's a balance between what is being put in the essential and desirable criteria. It's very easy to add too many things that are essential, but that means that you're making too many demands of the individual. Also, try and make sure there's a clear link between what you're stating the role is and what the requirements are. For instance, if the role is an office-based job, do they really need to have a driving licence? A person specification is usually defined by 3 sections: knowledge and experience, skills and competencies, and any additional requirements. The knowledge and experience section will include specific educational requirements and training, such as vocational, certified, or professional qualifications. Care should be taken to ensure that the educational requirements are actually a necessity for the role, i.e., don't ask for a degree as a matter of a course if the job doesn't actually require the post holder to have one. In relation to the experience, make sure it's relevant to the role or ensure that you're asking for transferable experience from similar roles. Asking for a specific number of years' experience could be seen as age discrimination, so emphasis should be on the type of experience. The skills and competencies refer to the technical, job-specific requirements that the individual needs to have. You may also want to refer to behaviours or demonstrations of a skill such as influencing, compassionate, or dynamic. This allows you to specify that it's not just about what they do, but there is a way in which you want them to do it. The final element on a person specification is the additional requirements section. These could be organisational, such as being part of an on-call rota system or an area rota, or a role-specific criteria, such as if they need to drive, work away from home, or work weekends. A few final considerations then for the person specification. Firstly, are you using the 2-tick scheme? If so, make sure there's a clear definition and distinction of whether something is compulsory or essential and desirable. Secondly, double check that there's nothing that could be regarded as discriminatory. I would also advise that you ensure that the person specification is job related and that there's a clear link with the job description. As with the job description, are the requirements measurable through qualitative or quantitative means, and are the requirements in the person specification necessary to a safe and effective performance of the job? A checklist for the overall document then for you to consider. Firstly, make sure someone sense checks the document. Sometimes when you're reading and writing something, you get lost in the detail, so it's useful to go back sometimes to get someone else to review it with a clearer head. Also, make sure everyone who will be involved in the recruitment process has had an opportunity to look at it and agree the document. This may include your HR department, who will want to do a job evaluation process. Finally, and a point to think about when undertaking assessments, ensure there's consistency throughout the recruitment process and that it always relates to what you're asking for in the job description and person specification. And that's it for this video on producing a job description and person specification. I hope you find the advice and guidance useful when considering how your JD will ensure you attract the right candidates. Also, remember to subscribe and like this video, and you can also follow me on Twitter, which is @theAnonAdvisor. Also look at my blog, and I'll see you on my next video. Okay, thank you.